How much of your weekly food routine is completed on auto cue? You buy similar types of bread, or maybe you make similar meals like stir fries, curries, or pastas every week. On today's episode of the Nutrition Couch, we look at the common meals we make on auto cue and the easy food swaps to improve your nutrition without you even noticing. Hi, I'm Leanne Ward.
And I'm Susie Burrell.
And together we bring you the Nutrition Couch, the weekly podcast that keeps you up to date on everything that you need to know in the world of nutrition. As well as simple swaps, we have some new research that looks at what to eat for a healthy liver. We also have a cheeky dessert option that may surprise you in a good way, and our listener question is all about pre-made salads. But to kick us off today, Susie, we are talking about simple swaps because I was having a conversation with a client this week and she was saying to me, you know what I found is really working for me? It's like that boring food, you know, the steak, the potato, the veg. I just do chicken and a salad kit. And I was like, oh, absolutely. For fat loss, boring wins. And sometimes we can't get our head around that we think that that's diet food. But honestly, it's some of my favorite types of meals because it's so quick and easy. You can have it on the table in 15 minutes. And my family and I eat that boring type of, protein, kind of carb and veg, probably 3 to 4 times a week. I don't know how these people have times to create these like fried rices and these nacho bowls and all of this like exciting food when you're just so busy with work and all these after school activities. So for me, I think that boring equals easy, but perhaps I don't know, is that your opinion as well sometimes? Not all week, but certainly a few days of the week.
I thought it was worth having this conversation because whenever I interview a new client, often they'll describe to me the meals they make each week and they'll say, oh, we have curry or we have a pasta or we have a stir fry, and then inevitably they're using relatively heavy additions. So they might be having a lot of rice with it or pompadons or sides that complement those traditional dishes without even thinking about it. And because they're trying to cook for the family, they're really trying not to create 2 different meals. And then I also have the clients who might start on sort of the meat and veggie mix, which is definitely lighter, but then they get bored quite quickly. And I think that's often programmed to us to be diet food. So I thought it was worth having a chat about how it's so easy because you put your dinners up often with the family. And I often think to myself, that looks amazing, but it's actually quite simple. But you might have just seasoned it with something or added a few potato gems on the side. And the way I do it myself, as someone who also needs to have, as most women do, lighter meals at night as we get older, is I just do it in bowls or tray bakes. So for example, you might still do a curry. So if I'm doing salmon or if I'm doing chicken, you might still do it with a curry sauce and loads of veggies. But then rather than add regular rice to mine, I'll just do cauliflower rice or not at all. So a lot of it, I think, is the perception that healthy needs to be a grilled, boring bit of chicken on a plate and some green veggies versus seasoning things up and making a bowl out of them or adding one sort of tasty addition or simply swapping out the heavier carbohydrates for lighter options, which are often much, much better for us. You don't even notice. And nutritionally, you're getting extra serves of veggies, but lightening the load as well. So I think it's not being scared to make things taste good, not being scared to add a little bit of something extra into it, and not thinking that healthy has to be that boring grilled protein and plain boiled veggies or steamed veggies. Not at all. It's about presentation often and just a little bit of exciting options. So my first easy swap is for anyone, just keep the veggie rice packets in the freezer. Now, if you've got a Thermomix or a blender or you've got time and you want to make your own, of course you can make your own vegetable rice, whether it is cauliflower or sweet potato. I think sweet potato is less easy. A lot of people will do it with carrot. There's broccoli, but you can make it or you can easily just buy them, and they're just such an easy add-in to any kind of stir fry, curry, even a risotto you can make. And they're still, or I would argue, very few people notice that they're missing the heavier rice. It's just something to sort of sop up the sauces and give that bulk to it. And over time you won't even notice that you're not having it. So that's my first go-to.
I disagree because I have an Asian background, and I would definitely notice if there wasn't rice in my curry.
Do you
That's
reckon?
all I'm going to say. 100%.
Do you reckon?
I would do like a bit of a mix. Like I would put I'm much more of a fan. I don't use the veggie rices if I'm honest. Like I would use rice, but I would just use a smaller portion, or I might mix a little bit through it. But I would 1,000% notice if there wasn't rice in there. Me personally.
Well, this is controversial. This is just taking a different tangent. I honestly don't think people notice that much, but maybe, yeah, I think that people often are adding a lot of gluggy stuff in and they don't even notice or need it, and we just eat it really quickly. Like white rice is really gluggy. It's just adding a lot of processed carbohydrate. And I don't generally think you need half as much as what we have because we've been taught to put it on the plate first and then add the protein and veg. So another simple swap, and this could work for you as a rice lover suddenly. You can just put
suddenly.
I've never ever heard you even say this one time. I've never once been with you and you've eaten rice. But you can put the protein and veg on the plate first and then stir the rice less like through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do it that way too. That's another option as well.
Yeah.
I think the same with pastas, like you can do it as a pasta bake. So you can do like the chicken and veggies and then just throw a little bit of pasta in rather than putting that pasta down on the plate first. But there are alternatives to noodles as well. You know, you can do the zoodles, you can do the slendier ones. So I have some clients who love having that and others who would rather wait and have it much more occasionally. But I think it's just the way we plate things and think of those bases or, you know, that belief that you have to have potato with a meal to complete it. But again, you can have much smaller serves or as we've spoken about before, you can do a pumpkin potato mash with zucchini through it and onion. It's just as delicious and you're just lightening that load a little bit too. So I find that can work really well.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is just portion size. Like, do you have to cut it out? No. But I think for most Australians, we are just eating far too much carbohydrate, particularly if we're trying to do those like family-friendly meals that are often very heavy pasta-based, very heavy rice-based for the children. We can all eat the same food, but you can certainly lighten your load and add some extra veggie on your plate and halve the rice portion that you might be serving to, say, potentially your partner who's 6'4", who's out in the hot sun working on the roof all day as a tradie, and you're in a desk job in an office and you don't really do any formal exercise. So I just think that it's an important reminder that we don't all need the same amount of food. If you've got a growing 16-year-old boy at home and you've got a 12-year-old girl, they're going to have very different requirements. So I think that's a really important reminder. The protein swaps are really easy, like, the 3-star mince for the 5-star mince. Or if you can't afford more the premium mince, cook it first and pour off some of that fat. You will see the fat in the pan if you're using that fattier type of mince, basically. You can also I said I had a client and I did a butter chicken and I put Greek yogurt through the butter chicken instead of cream. And she was sort of like, oh, I've never done that. Like, what does it taste like? And I was like, is it exactly the same? No, but it's still really, really enjoyable. And I'm not somebody who eats a ton of curries. Like, I find that creaminess of it it doesn't sort of do well for my stomach. So I've always done the Greek yogurt through like a curry. You can also use a bit of ricotta in replacement of cream or sour cream as well. Another good one I was talking to a client about this week, and we're going to go through barbecues on an upcoming podcast really soon, but those big hamburger rolls, an easy swap for that is to go into the bakery section, get those smaller lunch rolls. They often come in like a 6-pack. The smaller lunch rolls can easily be, 20, 30 gram carb saving and 100 calories. Sometimes those massive hamburger rolls can be 250, 300 calories just for the roll. And then you're putting, the mince patty, the cheese, the bacon, the whatever else into it. And then we're serving it often with a side of chips as well. So sometimes just lightening the load or taking the top off your bun. Often my family and I like grilled. If we get a bit of takeaway, we often will get it grilled. And sometimes if I want some of the chips, I'll just take the top off the bun if I'm not feeling as hungry, if I haven't had a really active day. So that's another option as well. The frozen potato, like frozen chips, frozen wedges, I often find that there's some really good brands on the market that are 90+% potato. And there's a difference between if you're going to get the beer battered chips and just the really plain frozen potato chips. That can make a difference if you eat them regularly, like my family does. We have probably some sort of frozen potato chip or frozen potato gem, I would say 3, 4, 5 times a week. My kids love them. I'm a massive sort of potato lover. So that can make a difference if you are someone who eats quite a bit of it. And then probably just my last swap is not a main meal swap, but more of like I was talking to a client about buying I think it's a 6 or 12 pack of the chocolates, like buying the mini snack packs of chocolate and not the entire block, because it's then that pre-portioned amount. And that works for most snacks, like buying the snack pack of chips instead of the big family bag, buying the snack pack of mini chocolate bars instead of the big family block. Because I think sometimes, again, if we buy the big portion, we're more conditioned to want to eat the whole thing versus if we get it in like those pre-portioned amounts. So nothing to do with main meals, but a quick little swap, a health swap we can add on the end there.
Okay, I've got a few thoughts on all of those points.
Okay, hit me.
You've come in randomly today. I have to say, you're not yourself. Have you had a sauna? You're a bit dehydrated?
I haven't had a sauna. I haven't had a coffee either. I'm on the back foot. I've got multiple client calls today. It's a very busy day.
No coffee.
I haven't got mum upstairs looking after the kids, so I'm like, have they got to run around upstairs? No, I've
she's
I've
loose.
had a very busy morning. Yeah,
no coffee even.
All over the shop. I've got to have my coffee after, in between the break when we do podcasts.
Okay, so I've got some thoughts. Okay, so I also, with the hamburgers, I think you can either take the middle out of the bread roll, which some people might think is wasteful, or you can use the sandwich thins and toast them because they're quite nice as a flat steak sandwich or burger. I like the extra lean beef patties you can get, the extra lean sausages. I think it's worth spending the extra $1 or $2 for that better quality because it is upwards of 80-90% meat versus some of the others which can be a lot lower actual protein content. I disagree completely that buying the individual portions of chocolates keep people on track because I think people just eat 3 or 4 of them. But I'm not saying that's
it's
a
still
solution.
better than a block of chocolate.
Well, the blocks are so small now. By the time you split it with a few people, you don't get that much. But I don't know the answer to that because I think for chocolate eaters, it's hard to regulate in general. So that's probably a whole nother podcast topic, if I'm honest. But I was going to come back to the point about the family and their carbohydrate needs. Now, sure, if you've got teenagers or younger children growing, and on the random chance your partner is a tradie, but this is not what I see. I see most adults overeating at nighttime and they don't need the fuel. Like 60-80% of the families I would see would have older children who aren't doing that much sport or husbands who are office workers and carrying weight. So I think we have to sometimes get rid of that belief that you have to have that fuel at night, particularly if you're a family who enjoys a dessert or some alcohol at night. It's okay to not add carbohydrate to the meals if you're not that hungry and don't really need it. So I think start to challenge that a little bit because I see an increasing number of people, and obviously I'm a bit older, so I am seeing people who are also in their 40s and 50s. And often the kids are in their 20s, they've grown up and left, they're not cooking for them anymore, and they might still say, oh, but my husband needs it. Well, he probably doesn't. Like if we consider that 60% of Australian adults are overweight, you don't need to feel guilty about serving a curry without rice. You don't need to feel guilty about serving steak without potatoes. You're not going to die. It's okay to have light meals sometimes. So I think when it comes to more traditional cuisine, right? So if you're having Italian, you're having Indian, and you're going to a beautiful restaurant or you're having a special Indian curry night, by all means, go for it. Have your pompadums, have your dal, go for it. But if it's that Monday to Thursday weeknight meal that is just a typical meal, it's okay not to have the heavy carbohydrates sometimes because most of us, I believe, don't need it. So I think in your own home, if you're listening, just challenge that belief a little bit because I think if you grew up in these 70s, 80s, we were all taught to always have that there. That was the food programming we were receiving. It was the time in Australia where multicultural meals became the norm. Suddenly we went in the 70s from having chops and potato and soggy broccoli to having pasta once a week or noodle dishes. I remember that very clearly in my growing up period of teenager as we moved through those influences of a lot of Vietnamese people coming to Australia or having more pasta as normal fare rather than that old school English meat and veg. And it did become the norm. But I think now it's okay to say we may not need those heavy additions because of our lifestyle, because of the fact there's so much food around and as we get older. So going back to your reference to the chips, I think if you've got an air fryer at home, if you make zucchini chips, if you make carrot chips, they're pretty good, as long as you use a bit of oil. So, yeah, I think if you're routinely adding it in under the belief, oh, it's for my husband or it's if my friends come over, I think it's okay to challenge it too, unless you are in that anomaly where you do have teenager boys who are playing basketball 6 times a week,
I agree, but I would also say that you work with a certain subtype of people who tend to have insulin resistance, which, I don't think you don't need to cut it all out. I think that you can happily add or have a moderate portion of carbohydrate in. So we'll just agree to disagree, but I don't think that everybody needs to cut it out.
No, I don't think you have to cut it out. I'm saying that it's okay to question if you actually need it because the people we see, whether they're insulin resistant or not, are generally eating too much. A lot of people eat too much.
So again, it comes back to portion size. It's not necessarily just cutting it out.
But it is hard to keep, like you're very regulated. I see your plate with 5 potato gems on it. Most people don't do that.
Well, it's because I've already eaten 10 before I put it on the plate.
Yeah, but if we're talking about general habit, people generally eat far more than they think. So all I'm saying is that most of us eat a little bit more than we have, and it's okay to have some lighter meals sometimes.
Agree.
Agree. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I think is the main point of the podcast.
Yeah, it's just questioning it sometimes because I think that's the point of the segment. It's the auto cue. It's just doing it without even thinking about it when actually if you're not that hungry at night, it's okay to ditch that heavier because nutritionally, you would agree with me that nutritionally on the plate, the most important parts are the lean protein and the vegetables.
Agree. Yeah.
Agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
agree.
if we are saying what do we actually need, many of us don't need the nutrition. It's generally just energy and, coming from that. So yeah, it's just I think sometimes looking at it and saying how much of this is just I'm just doing it because I've always done it rather than really questioning if I need it or if they're better swaps that will help increase vegetable consumption.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Good. Some food for thought.
Food for thought. And it would be boring if we always agreed, Leanne. So let's spice it up a bit.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got some new research. Now, this tickled my fancy, and you did point out to me that I'd chosen the research twice in upcoming episodes, which was very good. Lucky you're onto it, even though you haven't had your coffee.
Someone's decaf, if anyone's wondering.
But the thing that I liked about it was because it was talking about fatty liver. And fatty liver is a significant issue. A lot of people, even if they're slim and don't have any other health issues, might come and present with fatty liver. And you might have had some blood test results. I don't know what do you know how common it is, fatty liver?
I think it's on the rise.
Yeah,
I don't know the exact occurrence. Yeah.
And I've certainly had a few younger clients come through who are not overly overweight. They're not massive alcohol drinkers because I think there's a belief that if you've got liver damage, it's because of alcohol, and that's not always the case. Of course, there'll be a genetic predisposition to it. It's not indirectly linked to diabetes. So, there is a link to that profile. So this was a specific dietary study looking at some strategies to help reverse fatty liver. And to date, there hasn't been a huge amount of data to say this is the exact diet to have. Basically the evidence is you need a healthy diet that doesn't have too much added fat or added sugar, certainly minimize alcohol intake, but it's not about low protein. If anything, a higher protein intake appears to protect the liver, but it's not something that we can generally say, eat this and you'll improve your fatty liver. It's sort of a general balanced approach and losing body fat if you can. But this was some new data that was specifically looking at the effect of a specific type of dietary fiber called inulin and the progression of liver disease and damage over time. And it was published in a very reputable journal, Nature Metabolism. And the researchers found that it was specifically a type of dietary fiber appeared to be highly protective against fatty liver due to its relationship with fructose metabolism. Now, fructose is interesting as a nutrient, Leanne, isn't it? Because going back 5-10 years, fructose received a lot of criticism saying that it was specifically stored fat in the liver, which is not completely untrue, but in the States, of course, there's a much higher intake of processed fructose because major food manufacturers will use high fructose corn syrup, which comes from corn, to fill foods and sweeten them. So traditionally soft drink in the US and a number of snack foods and processed carbohydrate foods would have that as an ingredient. Now, we don't actually have that so much here in Australia. We don't have it at all here in Australia. So it's very different, our food supply, to that of the US. And you can see that when you walk down cereal aisles or snack food aisles, soft drink sections in the US. Whereas here, of course, fructose is the naturally occurring sugar in fruit. So it got sort of misconstrued a bit to say that fruit was bad for us, which is certainly not the key. But we do know that concentrated amounts of fruit coming from, say, dried fruit, fruit juices does increase the intake of fructose, which is metabolized through the liver. And as such, for those with liver disease, is probably not the best source of nutrition. But basically, the researchers found that inulin, which is primarily found in those fibrous vegetables, correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, it's the asparagus and the leeks and sort of more obscure vegetables a lot of people don't necessarily eat, but very, very healthy and very protective for us, in particular our blood glucose levels. But it appears that a high intake of inulin appeared to lessen the amount of fructose that the liver was exposed to over time, basically protecting it from inflammation and further damage. So just fascinating in general, because whilst the science is quite complicated, that's in a nutshell what happens. When you have a high intake of that kind of fibre, it appears to buffer the impact of inflammation and sugar being exposed to the liver, hence reducing cellular damage over time. So the take-home message is, particularly if you're at risk or do have fatty liver, fibre intake should certainly be on your mind. And it's not just about having, a fibre supplement each day and taking a Metamucil. It's much more powerful from the food sources. And I think in general, unless you're really got your mind to it, we don't get the range of different types of fibre that we need. So, for example, if I've got a client who is consuming a good quality bread and cereal, a whole grain, or they might have some multigrain Wheat Bix or some all bran, they're getting one type of fibre. And then if they're having, say, legumes, baked beans, chickpeas, lentils and fruit, they're getting another type. But inulin is quite specific, isn't it, Leanne? You would have to be proactively adding in the leek, asparagus, artichoke, onion, garlic. And of course, then if you're sensitive to those with FODMAPs, you may not be getting them. So I thought it was probably a good check for anyone listening who does have liver issues to really be checking that fibre intake, and you really want to have a high intake of all of those 3 types of fibre, and perhaps even be considering, can you supplement with inulin as a standalone?
Yeah, you can. And it is more of that prebiotic type of fiber. So it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. But as you mentioned, some people with more of a sensitive gut may be a little bit more reactive to that because too much of it can cause like gas and bloating and a bit of discomfort. So it really is something like all types of fiber that you want to just add in a small amount and then just slowly increase that week by week as well. And just make sure you're getting it as much as possible from a whole food base. So some of those whole grain products with a little bit of added chicory root, added inulin in there, things like muesli bars, cereals, different types of mueslis, that sort of foods tend to have a little bit of added inulin, a little bit of added chicory root fiber. So that from a prebiotic perspective is really helpful. And then you can even try adding like things like green banana. You can get green banana powder. You can put that into smoothies and snacks. That's more of like a gentler prebiotic approach. So this research did focus on inulin specifically, but I do believe that most prebiotics are going to be helpful from a gut health perspective as well. So I think it's just about that broad range of, am I getting enough fiber? Yes, we want some probiotics in. Yes, we want some prebiotics in. And we also want some of that resistant-based starch as well where we can. So again, it comes back to the bottom line of every single dietitian says moderation, health, a broad range of good, healthy foods in each day. We don't want to cut out whole food groups. Even if you're sensitive to some of these fibers, you still need to be eating just small amounts of them. Even if you've got half of a small onion and you're spreading that across 6 meals, it's better than cutting it out altogether because that prebiotic fiber is what really does feed the gut bugs long term. And you might feel temporarily better if you cut it out initially, but you're actually doing your gut a disservice long term by avoiding all types of FODMAPs because you're actually starving the gut bacteria that's in your gut.
True. And that's why I love soups, actually. That's why they're such a superfood, because if you think of the base of most soups, whenever I'm starting a soup, it's onion, garlic, leek, celery. So you're getting that on a day-to-day basis. So you hear funny people on soup diets, or with a group of girlfriends at the moment, we've got several events on and our dresses are not fitting. So I was like, right, we need to go and detox soup. So I set the recipe around with all the leeks and celery, and it does shed fluid quite quickly. But at a broader level, it's supplying those fibers regularly. And that's why those having that, while salad's great and it's coming into salad season, I find that people don't necessarily get the range of foods in the salad. Like they're always having leaves and then they have tomato, cucumber, maybe capsicum, but at least in soups and things, you tend to get a much broader range of vegetables, which is why I like clients to cook a tray of roast vegetables and even have that within a salad or as a side in summer, not just eating the salads all the time. And that does indirectly, as we're talking about, benefit those things like that type of fiber getting into the diet. So I think just really interesting research, particularly if you've got fatty liver.
I agree. And just a little quick hack, if you're, it's just a pain in the butt, to cut up onion, to cut up garlic, to cut up leek, to use artichokes, asparagus. If you can dice them all really finely, spend, 30, 60 minutes on a Sunday, dice them all really finely, get a little ice cube tray, put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom and add like half a teaspoon of that mix of really finely chopped onion, garlic, leek, put it into the ice cube tray and freeze it. And the next time you make a risotto, a curry, a pasta sauce, use 1 or 2 of those ice cubes. And that's the base of that meal. And you're getting in a lot of that natural prebiotic fiber. So an hour in the kitchen can save you significant time longer term, and you're still getting in that really good gut fuel. A client taught me that years ago, and it's such a great little hack for the kitchen.
And I've got even better one than that. Of course, yours is outstanding, Leanne.
All right.
Okay, so at Kmart, I don't even know if you've got one of these. When I come up in a couple of weeks, if you don't have one, I'm bringing you one. Kmart have got this thing, and we'll put a photo of it on our YouTube page. It's called a pulley. And it's like this $5 machine. Have you seen it?
I've seen it, yeah.
And it's got a blade and I just cut if I'm going to the markets and I'm stocking up on those things. So usually I'd have onion and garlic, but if I'm buying leeks and if I'm buying celery, I'll spend that time cutting them all up and freezing anything I don't use so I don't waste it. So whenever I go to make a soup, I've got some in the freezer. And then I just cut them up and put them in my pulley and break them up that way. And it stops the sort of teariness that comes from chopping everything up, gets it into really small, fine pieces and is really, really time effective. So that's another trick. So if you haven't got a Kmart pulley, there's a big one. I think it's $7 and a smaller one is $5. I use it so much when I'm cooking. It's a really good investment. So we'll pop a little photo up of it. We highly recommend them.
How can you even make it for $5? Like, how do you even make something for $5 these days?
Oh, it's crazy, but it's so good in the kitchen compared to, there's so many different appliances, that you can use, food processors and Thermomixes
$1,000 on a blender. Yeah.
And I've had so many blenders in my time, and I just come back to the bar mix and now my pulley. Like, they're so convenient, not hard to wash or anything. So yeah, we'll put a little link up because it's a really good piece of kitchen equipment when you're making soups and things regularly.
Okay, crazy. All right. Well, the next product is I've gone rogue. I haven't had my coffee.
Yes, she has gone rogue.
I've gone rogue today. And the next product, Susie's like, really? I was like, yeah, we have to talk about this. It's not healthy. I'm not by any means saying that this is a healthy product, but this is a delicious product. And I think our Nutrition Couch listeners need to be aware of it, because I wasn't until my client was like, can I have one of these? And I was like, oh yeah, like if you love it, but it's going to we need to account for it. It's not a free food. And she's like, oh no, it's only 130 calories. And I was like, tell me more.
Can I also say they've been around forever? Like, it's not new.
I just found out about this, Susie, so I'm very excited. I've had a couple this week. They're very good. They're expensive, but we'll get to that in a minute. They are I should have got something in my freezer, the Mars Bar frozen ice cream. So they are small. Like, I gave David one and he was like, oh, it's tiny. Can I have a second one? I was like, no, portion control.
Portion control, David.
It's in a 5-pack. They are very small, I will admit. But I will say that they are so satisfying. I didn't feel the need to have the entire pack. I find it more satisfying than an actual Mars bar personally. And I'm not a huge ice cream person. So that's, it's something. So they're the Mars Bars frozen dessert bars in a 5-pack. I think they're at Coles and Woolworths. I bought them from Woolworths. They generally retail for $9.50, so they are not cheap. They are an investment, but they are delicious. Currently at Woolworths, we do pre-record, so they may or may not be on sale when you're listening. They're 25% off, so they're $7. So they're a little over $1. Like, if you went and you bought a nice gelato out at a shop, you're paying $6, $7, $8 for a cup of gelato. So from that perspective, they're pretty good, but they're just really, really delicious. Do I even bother reading out the ingredients? They're not healthy. We know that. What is the first ingredient? Glucose syrup, which is sugar. The third ingredient, which is interesting, and I think which what makes it so just enjoyable, is sweetened condensed milk, and then sugar, vegetable fat, cream, milk solids, cocoa mass, malt extract, cocoa powder, soy lecithin, thickener, salt flavors. So yeah, it's heavy sugar. It's a sweetened product. It's an ice cream, let's be honest, and it's got this lovely chocolate coating on it. Oh, it's so good, Susie. I can't believe it took me till I was 36 to find these at the supermarket, but here we are. They're very good. Go and give them a try. There is a Snickers range. I didn't know that, but apparently when I put them on my Instagram, everyone was like, oh, try the Snickers ones. They're so much better. So if you're a fan of peanuts, if you're not allergic or anything, go and give the Snickers range a try, because apparently they're even better. But I reckon the Mars ones are 10 out of 10. I think they're absolutely delicious, not healthy, but delicious. So perfectly fine in moderation.
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually, because there's a strong nutrition belief model that would say you're better to have the real thing less frequently than things that are perceived as healthier that aren't as tasty and satisfying. And I think I am a big fan of the dessert section of supermarkets for this reason, because there's a lot of portion controlled options. There's the beautiful little Coles, there's a mango sorbet, and we've covered a few of those products before. They're small. Even the mini type magnums, of course, the twisted frozen yogurt range, they're all delicious but portion controlled. So we have definitely had the ice creams in my family. I am tighter than you, and I only buy them when they're 40 to 50% off. So if they're $4.50 or $5, that's when I'll pick them up. I wouldn't buy them at $7.50 still, because they do regularly discount that section by 40, 50%. So I wait for that quite often. And so, yeah, I sort of tend to agree with you, because the thing with the ice cream is I find people are far less likely to overeat it. I don't often see clients eating 2 twisted frozen yogurts or 2 individuals, whereas with the chocolates, as soon as chocolate's involved, I find everyone finds it really hard to just stick to the one. It ends up being a few bite-sized chocolates or a few rows, whereas there's something about a packet approach that does keep people in line a bit more. So yeah, I do think if you can find whichever is that portion control size of that, because things like a Magnum, Gay Time, the one I like, which is the Maxibon, they're closer to sort of 200, 250, even 300 calories. That's a lot. Whereas sort of 150, as we spoke about coming up, the Rockaby protein desserts are about 150 cal, that at 130. I usually say about 100, but I would be pretty happy with that as well, particularly if it was someone had it, they enjoyed it, complemented their day. So yeah, I thought it was worth a discussion as well with it. There's a lot of those kind of mini options out there, and you can really have a satisfying dessert option that you're less likely to overeat than things like tubs. So yeah, I thought it was worthy of a discussion.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're much better to eat the thing that you really want and be satisfied with a small portion of it versus trying to eat the healthy, low-fat, low-sugar ice cream and then eating half the tub of it and still not really feeling that satisfied. So I think there's a huge amount of merit in that, actually choosing what you truly want that feels really satisfying for you. So if you don't like Mars bar chocolates, don't go and buy this because you're probably not going to enjoy it. But if you do, it could be a really great alternative to add in as part of your overall balanced, healthy nutrition plan.
Because let's be honest, like gelato, a single scoop is like $6 in a tiny little cup. So for $2 or $3 per serve, they're actually quite cost effective too. All right, Leanne, well, for our listener question today, after our find, let's return to all things health and nutrition, shall we? I am loving the pre-made salads. This is direct from our Instagram account, so please keep sending your listener questions. We do get them from there. Is the dressing okay? So any of those salads, whether it's the Green Goddess or Kale Slaw, or the one I like is Ranch, they've got that little packet of sauce in it. Now, I think it's insignificant because, yes, we would argue that salad dressing can be quite high in fat. So if you're getting Kewpie, ranch dressing, Caesar dressings at a restaurant, they can be quite high in fat, and they certainly lather them on. You know, one of the things, if you go to the States, they've got amazing salads with amazing dressings, but they're really high in fat and very liberally used. But that packet that they put in those pre-made salads is so small and those salad bags are supposed to feed 4. I don't know how you get more than 2 serves out of them. Like really, I would eat them in 2 serves. So I always say to my clients, don't throw them away. It's a bit of fat. Yes, it's got some seed oil in it, but for the volume that you're getting compared to the volume of salad, and they make the salad taste great, go for it. I don't have a problem with it. Do you agree?
That was exactly my thoughts. And I've said this to so many clients. They're like, oh, but it's got vegetable oil in it, but sugar's the 3rd ingredient. And I actually pulled up the ingredient list. So I love the Mexican one, and I love the Asian one with the crispy noodles. So that's one of my favorites. So I pulled the ingredient list of the crispy noodle one, and just to basically bring the point home that you were saying. So the dressing out of the Asian noodle kit, it's like a soy sesame type dressing, right? So the dressing is 17% overall, right? It's got water, vinegar, sugar, soy sauce, sesame oil, maltodextrin, salt, natural color, sesame seeds, natural flavor, citrus fiber, emulsifiers, yeast extract, thickener, spices, antioxidant. Is it an ultra processed food? Yes. Are you better to make your own salad dressing at home? Yes. We are busy. We are time poor. I would much rather, I personally eat the dressings. Susie eats the dressings. I tell my clients to eat the dressings, as do you, I'm sure, Susie. It is so insignificant in the grand scheme of things because, as Susie said, we want our clients to get 2 serves out of the pack, not 4. So if the dressing is 17%, it's less than 10% of the overall salad kit. Is there a little bit of emulsifier in there? Yes, but it's like ingredient number 12. Is there a little bit of sugar in there as a 3rd or 4th ingredient? Yes. But when it's only 8% of the overall salad kit in general, it's pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And if it makes it taste good and it means that you eat double the serve of vegetables that you would have, if you were making soggy broccoli, you probably wouldn't eat much at all. So if it makes it taste good and it means that people are eating more vegetables, because we know that 90% of Australians don't eat enough vegetables, I say eat the salad dressing. I think if you don't want to eat it, you want to make your own, you do you. Totally fine, right? But I think that they're actually quite enjoyable for a small amount of, sugar, a small amount of extra vegetable oil or fat. It's really insignificant in the grand scheme of things, because most people who are like, I'm so clean, and we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, will, make their own salad dressing, be all, clean and healthy, and then go smash like 4 rows of chocolate after dinner. So it's kind of in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really make a big difference. If you like them, if you find that it makes your dinner more enjoyable, your lunch more enjoyable, 100%. I'm team eat the salad dressing.
Yeah, me too. I think also they're one of my favorite products in the supermarket because within the salad you get such a variety of ingredients which would be a lot more expensive to buy individually. So things like the red cabbage that we know is so good for us, just the range of ingredients in a salad that would take a lot more energy to make yourself. I think, like we've spoken about before, you got to always go to the back of the section to make sure you get a few days out of them. But yeah, I'm a big fan, even if it's adding things like the croutons or the noodles, because for me the benefits of the range of ingredients outweigh any of those negatives, whether it's a bit of extra fat in the dressing or the things like the croutons or the noodles. So go for it. Enjoy your pre-made salads.
Couldn't agree more. Big green light thumbs up from the Nutrition Couch in terms of salad dressing. We just want you to eat more salads. We don't care what you put on them. We just want you to eat more salad and vegetables.
As the Mars bar ice cream section sells out next week, thanks to Leanne.
We'll get your salad with your dressing and then go have a little Mars bar. And it's called balance, guys. That's exactly what balance is.
True.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of the Nutrition Couch for another week. If you know that you are ready to take your nutrition to the next level, check out our range of scientifically formulated supplements at designbydietitians.com. We have our premium range of protein powders. We've got our creatine range for women, our triple magnesium, which is just selling like crazy because it just is so incredibly amazing for sleep and muscles. And then we've also got our collagen and our brand new hydration range as well, all scientifically formulated for busy women, designed by Susie and I to help busy women feel their best. So go check them out at designbydietitians.com.
Maybe we do a little giveaway. If people are listening to this episode and tag the podcast on social media, we will put you in the draw to win a new hydration pack. How about that?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds great. Right.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks. See you next week.